guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I am in our Abarth 595 Turismo. We've owned this car for about 18 months now, and I'm only finally getting around to doing a little review on it. First things first, I need to put the TTC on because it's a wet day, and TTC is basically the equivalent of traction control in the Abarth. You can never fully turn it off, but if you want to have any fun in it, you've got to turn it off. First thing you do, it just gives it a little bit more slip. Obviously you have to have the sport button pressed as well. Without them, it's just a granny's car. But yeah, so this replaced our Polo. We had a 1.4, shocking, and we had that for quite a while. It was mainly for the wife, but she never drove it, so I managed to persuade her in the end that we needed to sell it and get something that was a bit more fun, so hence the Abarth. Now this is the automatic. It's 5-speed. This could really use a 6th speed. That is the 6th gear. This is one thing that this car really lacks, and it's a 6th gear. You notice it more when you're on the motorway. It's not so much an issue when you're just darting around little A roads and B roads, but when you want to do any proper miles, you just really feel like it's missing that gear. But other than that, you can't fault this car. It's a wicked little go-kart just for what we need it for, which is just, you know, the occasional use by the wife. I say occasional, this car's done 5,000 miles. We've done 350 miles in the last 12 months since the MOT. And yeah, most of that was just back and forth, keep the engine running, having a bit of fun, sitting behind vans and cyclists like I am now. But anyway, so should you buy an Abarth 595? Absolutely, these are just great little toys. If you use it a lot, you will get through. The suspension components do seem to go quite a bit. They're reliable though. I'm pulling over because I'm stuck behind this bloody van, but I can't pull over there because it's just a giant lake, so I guess I'll just hang back for a minute. The 595 comes with a 1.4 litre T-Jet turbocharged engine. This one puts out 165 horsepower, which to be honest is plenty in a car this size. It weighs just over a ton, so yeah, it's plenty chuckable. You can get them remapped and they can quite easily go up to 185. You can push them a bit more up towards 200. Some nutters go over 200, but you are probably going to be stretching the engine a little bit if you're taking it into the 200s. Obviously there's more involved changes to the engine, like the intercooler and other components as well. But in standard guise with 165 horsepower, this is the Turismo, it's absolutely fine. If you go for the Competizione, that one has got 180 odd horsepower, which is a little bit more. You don't get the comfy seats, so this has got the leather seats, which was a requirement of the wife. I did try and say that the competition seats are very nice, but not ideal for what she needed, you know, all the miles she does and all. I believe the competition version has slightly harder suspension as well. So the Turismo, for what we wanted, ticked all the boxes. It's a nice middle ground from the standard and the Competizione. This also has the nice touchscreen tablet in the middle. It's got everything you need. It's got TomTom sat nav, it's got digital radio, Bluetooth so you can make phone calls, everything you need really. Now one important thing when you get in the car, like I said at the start, first thing you need to do is engage the sport button. Without that, it's alright I suppose if you're driving on a motorway, but it's not that much fun without the sport button pressed. The sport button seems to make the steering a little bit more weightier and direct, and it does improve the throttle response as well. It makes a massive difference to that. You idiot. Definitely a lot of torque steer with this. Even with 165 horsepower, you do notice it. If you put your foot down, it does tend to hunt around and try and find the ditches. So that is definitely something to bear in mind, especially when you remap this. You're going to notice that even more. This particular car is the semi-automatic, so it has the flappy paddle gearbox. That was a requirement again for the wife. She doesn't really like manuals. I don't mind it. It does make it quite easy to drive. Automatic though is just an absolute pain. And my biggest gripe with this car, whilst yeah, it's not that difficult to drive the automatic, it does intervene way too early. So if you're trying to change up and down, it gets involved way too early. It should not get involved. It should just let you do what you want to do. As soon as you start thinking, right, I'm gonna change gear, it will already be there. I'll give you an example of the gears now. I'm in third, I'm going to drop a second. I could easily go over these in second, but the car puts me in in first, which I didn't want, I didn't need. So again, in a second, I'm going to go over the speed bumps. Yeah, and it puts me in first again. I did not ask for first. It would easily go over there in second. Just, it's unnecessary. Right, second again, nice and slow. This is a horrible speed bump, this one. And again, first without wanting first. When you do this, you want to open up the taps. The gearbox is great. Like now we're going into a national speed limit. Put our foot down. Turbo kicks in, you can feel the steering wheel pulling a little bit. And yeah, the gears just, you know, change nicely. It's nothing like the CSL or anything, obviously, but it does its job. It picked up speed. It's quick enough. 165 horsepower is never going to set the world on fire, but you know, for nipping about and having a bit of fun in the countryside, it's all right. You're not going to get in too much trouble with 165 horsepower, that's for sure. It does pick up speed into the 30 and 40 mile an hour very quick, but once you're out into the open national speed limits, you're not really going to get in that much trouble, really. The exhaust has got a really nice tone to it, and it's just standard as well. It's got a little bit of a burble, bit of a crackle. Nothing too bad. It would be nice if it had more on the overrun. But again, you can easily upgrade the exhaust if you do want to be a bit more ASBO. For me, and again for what we use this for, which is basically just, you know, around town, taking the kids to school, it's plenty loud enough. It's not bad at all. The suspension is definitely firm, but I wouldn't say overly so. It's definitely compliant and it's fine. What you do find is the car does move around a lot when you're pushing on through the bends. It's certainly not the lowest of cars, but it's still low enough to make you think twice when you go over the sleeping policeman. You don't really want to wreck the little splitter at the front. I think I've caught it a couple of times. I haven't really if the wife's watching this, but yeah, it is low enough to kind of catch you off guard occasionally. A lot of people do lower these cars as well. You can get lowering springs or just go full-on coilovers. I think it does need lowering as well. It does sit a little bit high, to be honest, and you can get kits that lower it a bit at the front and a bit more at the back, because if you notice they do sit a little bit kind of hunkered down at the front, these cars. They're definitely higher at the back. And then what people often do, they also put spacers on them as well, and it completely transforms the look of the car. So I think I may look into doing that. I joined the Abarth Facebook page, and there's a lot of nice looking Abarths. You don't even need to do that much. It only costs, say, 400-500 quid, and yeah, it completely transforms it. And the handling is improved a lot more as well if you do lower it and put spacers on. You just got to be careful with spacers, like I've always said. Not a huge fan of them. You have to be very careful with them. As long as you do install them correctly and get the correct length bolts, you're generally okay. There's a little bit of turbo lag with this car. It's standard, I guess. It's not too bad, but when the turbo does kick in, it does kick you back in the seat a little bit. Again, doesn't set the world on fire, but it's a nice little go-kart for nipping around town. The seating position is very high in the Abarth. That's one kind of gripe I do have with the Abarth. You do sit very high. Again, you can solve it. You can get seat lowering brackets that take the seat down a little bit. And if I had this as my main car, I probably would spend a bit and do these little tweaks to it to make it perfect. But yeah, I don't use it that much, so I probably won't. Let me put the windows down, because we have a tunnel, so let's do the obligatory tunnel run. Now again, the exhaust is standard on this, so it's not that loud, but it does have a nice tone to it. I haven't really done many tunnel runs in this because it's not exactly a tunnel run car, but it does still sound nice. So we'll have a little blast. Here we go. I don't really know if you heard that or not. I'll take it all back, it's not loud at all. So in terms of size, the Abarth is absolutely tiny. We had the Polo and that was tiny, but this is just go-kart tiny. It has got 4 seats, and you'll notice we have got a child seat in the back. It's rare that we take the kids out in this, mainly for a safety aspect. You know, I wouldn't really want to go on motorways with 2 kids in the back because you don't have any real crash zone behind you. There is no boot. If you get like a Range Rover going into the back of you, I wouldn't even want to start to think what that'd look like. Again, the front's pretty short as well, so it's not really a car you want to crash, but again, we don't do many miles in it. It's more of a toy car, a little plaything. Yeah, as you'll see in the back, there isn't a huge amount of room, to be honest. Definitely not really for 4 adults. You can get a couple kids in the back if you really want to, but you got to put your seat forward a bit, and I'm 6'1" on a good day, and yeah, there's not a huge amount of leg room left if you're going to try and put a fully grown man in the back. It's got parking sensors. I have no idea why it's got parking sensors. It's literally like parking a toy, but yeah, you know, it does make it very, very easy to park. Obviously, it has power steering, it's got aircon, it's got all the mod cons that you need. It doesn't have heated seats, so in the winter you do get a cold arse, but again, you know, we've done 300 miles in it, so your bum's not that cold for that often, really. Other little quirks with this car: the window washer stalk. It's upside down. Maybe it's an Italian thing, maybe you're all mad over there, but normally you go up, don't you, to turn your windscreen wipers on. You go up and it just sets the one go on the wiper. You have to go down if you want the wipers to come on. This car really is perfect just for little A roads and B roads and just nipping down the shops. I probably wouldn't want this as my only car. It's too small and too restrictive, but in terms of just having it as a fun car, if you're in a position just to have it as a toy, then yeah, I'd say do it. But yeah, now we're out on the bumpy roads, you can feel it. If you go over the big bumps, you do feel the bump stops kind of kicking in occasionally, quite big ones, or if you go over a pothole, God forbid. The roads are pretty slippy today, so you definitely feel it understeering. Especially you go into a corner slowly and then you put your foot down, turbo kicks in, you definitely feel it understeering off, trying to find the hedge. But it's very easy understeer. Obviously it's very simple to catch. It's not like crazy oversteer or anything. Again, I think that would be dialed out a little bit if you got it lowered and put spacers on. I don't think you'd have as much of an issue then. And you do have to be pressing on really, in the dry especially, to be getting understeer. But where the roads are wet and greasy at the moment, understeer is definitely something you will notice. It does have a nice interchangeable digital dash on it, so if you're just pootling around, you can have it in the normal setting, or if you do want to go to, you know, fun/race mode, when you press the sport button, you do get this much sexier dash with all of these nice little things like the G meter. It's a bit silly really, but it's, you know, I guess it's nice to have. So if we just give it a little blast now. That's only taking it up to 5,000 RPM. It's quick enough up to 60. And now we've got a sharp bend. Let's see how it understeers. Oh yeah, and then lots of torque, steer, fighting for grip. It does change gear pretty quick when you're pressing on, but it's quite active. But yeah, once you're say in 5th and you're in low revs, the turbo's not really working, it's dog slow. You need to be up the revs definitely and have the turbo on boost to notice any real kind of performance. I think the issue is I'm spoiled because I've got the M3 CSL. This is obviously, you cannot compare those cars, but you know, before we had that, this was just a proper little go-kart. Now I'll bring that through here, come through in this, and I don't know, it is underwhelming in comparison. Oh, let's get out of this junction before the old lady in a Micra beats me to it. Whew, that was close. Right, now we can have a little bit of fun. The lady in the Micra stopped for a cup of tea. Now we've got nice sharp bends so you can feel that, yeah, but you can, the car moves around, but you can quite easily just, yeah, drift it. I say drift, you know, the understeer. Oh, that's trying to find that hedge there. It's very greasy today. Yeah, there's no grip at all, honestly. I don't know if an oil tank has been down here, but yeah, the front end is just playing, very, very playful, the front end. So to sum it up, the 595 Turismo, it's a good mid-level Abarth. It's not overly crazy in terms of suspension harshness and power. It's got 165 rather than 180. It's not your standard vanilla one. It's got the nice interior. It's quick enough. It's not overly loud. It's got all the mod cons that you need. It's got literally everything you need. It's a tiny car. That's the only downside to it, I suppose. It's a very small car. You don't have much storage. The boot's tiny. You do still get a spare in the boot though, which is a bonus. Most of the cars these days just have a little can of foam. The gearbox, go for the manual unless you need to go for the automatic. That is my recommendation. Always engage the sport button and turn TTC on to make the driving experience more enjoyable, more sporty, and so you have a little bit more play in the bends without traction just jumping in. And value wise, you get a lot of car for your money. It's a lot of performance for your money. It's something a little bit different. They look gorgeous. You can mod them very easily, and just in general they're a fun car to own. So I'm going to end the videos there, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it useful. If you have, please consider subscribing, hit the thumbs up, drop a comment, and I'll see you soon.